I'm joined by Admiral Mark Montgomery, retired United States Navy. Hello, Admiral. How was your weekend?
It was great, sir. I just got back from an extended trip in Ukraine and just caught up on a little bit of sleep last night.
Oh, that's a tough number of time zones to go through. Let's start with Ukraine then. Are we continuing to ship weapons to them and the supplies that they need?
We are shipping what was previously distributed and ordered, from what I could tell. Most importantly, we're providing intelligence support. And while the Ukrainians are a little bit confused by the back and forth on things within the administration, they still remain deeply grateful and appreciative of the assistance we provided. And we really are the backstop. When you look at our $30+ billion worth of gear that's on the ground there or been expended there, I mean, we have been the determinative factor, along with Ukraine's own, societal resilience and the strength of their military over the last 3 years.
Yeah, I had Ambassador Marakova on last week, and she always begins by saying thank you and ends that way, but sometimes it's confusing to listen to American voices for whatever reason, not be other than 100% with Ukraine, even as we look for a peace. Now, Admiral, I sent you, and I don't know if you had a chance to look, at this morning's news items from John Ellis had number 7, updating everyone on China's electromagnetic pulse weaponry, including its advanced high-altitude electromagnetic pulse nuclear warhead, and a RAND report about this. I've known about EMPs forever, but I didn't worry about them. I did not know that China owned 90% of the patents on EMP stuff. Did you?
Yeah, and I think there's two things here, sir. In the stuff you sent me and in my reading on it, and this is a known. This is should not be a surprise to us. One's the high-powered microwaves, which are kind of a tactical tool, which they're absolutely, they've got 90% of the patents, as you said, and they are streaking to completion of a whole lot of systems that I think could have a very significant battlefield impact for all our services, but particularly the ground forces and the maritime forces. This is a very tricky weapon and very difficult for us to counter. Separate from that, related, is the HEMP, the high altitude electromagnetic pulse, which is more of a strategic weapon because, like, if it was fired at us, we would think, boy, someone just fired an ICBM at us, and it might really kick off the big one. But it could be used over Taiwan and be launched from a DF-17, which is a typical weapon you would see fired at Taiwan in a conflict. And that is that kind of civilization killer, is what a philosopher called it once. The idea that it takes down all the electrical systems in a very large area around a burst that happens about 20 to 50 kilometers up in the air.
Well, that's also a worldwide depression weapon. Because if you do that to Taiwan, don't you launch a worldwide depression because of TSMC? Or TMSC?
So, yeah, I think, that, again, the high-powered microwaves you could use tactically as part of to minimize the damage in Taiwan, probably actually a benefit. The long-term kinetic damage. The HEMP, you're exactly right. I mean, no one's coming back from that quick. And I don't know what it would do. Those individual semiconductor manufacturing equipment, the tools that are inside a high-end TSMC fabrication facility, they cost $150 million a piece. You start damaging them. I don't know how you repair them. I don't know the difficulty. I don't know what happens to the German lenses in there. And no one does, because no one's taking a $150 million piece of gear out and HEMP testing it. But my guess is not good things are going to happen. And you're right, it's going to have a deleterious effect on the global economy. Now, I will say a significant Taiwan event in general is going to have a deleterious effect on the world economy.
Now, Admiral, the second question that was raised by this report by RAND and thediplomat.com is, do these weapons work on underwater platforms? So would our submersibles and our submarines be vulnerable to these weapons?
Well, first, many of our submarines and submersibles have antennas that come up at times, and they would certainly be subject to this. I think to the degree that the U.S. Navy's done any of the testing on that, it would be pretty highly classified.
All right, now do you think that DARPA is working on I hope we don't patent our most deadly weapon systems. Right? That's what I thought. Well, those are the patents. What are they not telling us about? I don't want to patent our weapon systems. I don't want anyone to know about them. Do we have stuff like this?
So first, I wasn't aware there's a patent gap. I'm not sure there is because for the exact reason you said. Well, first of all, I do want to give a shout out. Newt Gingrich is on about a 25-year jihad on this issue that we've got to take it more seriously. So again, this is not an unknown unknown. Don Rumsfeld would not be surprised. This is a known challenge coming. So do we have we have HPM systems, high-powered microwave systems? I don't think we've been as successful as them. I mean, I got to be careful. I'm reading reports like you're reading reports. Now, I tend to trust some of the sources I'm seeing here, that they've made some breakthroughs in how you use and the efficacy of high-powered microwave as a weapon. I think we've been all of our directed energy programs, and this is a variety of a directed energy program. All of our directed energy programs have been disappointing in their pace of development, whether they're at DARPA or the services. So yes, we have programs. No, I don't think we have programs that are at the pace that's alleged that this Chinese program has established.
All right, now I want to turn to at the bottom of the hour. I'm going to talk with the author of this book, Patrick McGee. The book is called Apple in China, The Capture of the World's Greatest Company. It's very disturbing, Admiral, because its thesis in a nutshell is China owns Apple, not us. The Apple shareholders might get profits, but China owns it because they couldn't disengage if they wanted to. What do you think of that thesis?
I do think there are a number of companies and emerging technologies that have had market capture done by the Chinese. And with a company, it's a little different. It's how the workforce develops, how you work certain issues. With an emerging technology, it's when China literally invests in its own state-owned enterprise and drives the Americans and the other Western companies out with unfair pricing. That's what we saw with Huawei and 5G. We've seen it with a company called Heisai and LiDAR. So that's one method of championing themselves. The second one's what this book is about, which is where they capture the company. They're both, this is probably less bad than the driving us out, because we see now with 5G, it's ubiquitous throughout, the whole Southern Hemisphere. With LiDAR, those are those kind of sensors that are in a Tesla, an automated vehicle. It's very hard for us to find them for our military gear because our companies are driven out. So both of these issues bother me, Hugh. Probably the overall market capture one of an emerging technology bothers me more. The Apple one is more, at some point, if they want to take advantage of that to force concessions from Apple on access to data and things like that, they can probably get it.
All right, so Admiral, in a 2-minute summary, what is the strategic aim of Xi Jinping? What does he want?
Well, I think he wants Taiwan to bend to Beijing's will. I think that's the biggest. There's a number of outstanding issues they have out there. That's the one that I think he has on his bingo card for completion before I leave. So how do you do that? That's why he works so many angles. He works that kind of most dangerous scenario of having his military ready for a cross-strait invasion or a blockade. But he also works this kind of most likely scenario where he tries this cyber-enabled wargaming or campaigning. The hemp is part of that. The HMP is part of that. The cyber activities are part of that. Taking over LNG or energy. So his aim is to drive Taiwan as a public societal decision to bend the knee to China and be integrated in under initially a two territories, one system, but eventually a singular entity.
And then, Admiral, after that, what does he want? I just don't know how they could possibly want more than they've got right now. They've got everything that they want right now. They're only two superpowers. We're one of them. They're the other one.
Yeah, and I think they have a vision where there's one, and it's not us in their vision. But for sure, what they'd like is us out of the Western Pacific. They would like to have a sphere of influence that includes Japan, Korea, Taiwan.
Well, we will continue to talk about this, Admiral Mark Montgomery. Thank you so much.